Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, Democrat from Hawaii, to the broadcast. First time on Face the Nation. She sits on both the Armed Services and the Foreign Affairs Committees, and before her election served 2 tours in Iraq in the U.S. Army, I believe.
Aloha, Bob. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. You heard this thing that's come out now about ISIS sending out this information on 100 members of the military. Do you know anything more about this?
Well, I think this is exactly the kind of tactics that we are starting to see increase, not only here, but in other parts of the world, where these Islamic extremist terrorist elements are looking to different so-called soft targets, and really the unconventional approach they're taking to this war that they are waging not only against the United States, but to anyone who doesn't follow their vein of this radical Islamic ideology.
You are a Democrat, of course, but you have not been afraid to criticize the administration on occasion on these matters. Should we be doing something differently now in this war on terror than what we're doing?
We should be, and I think as we have just passed the 12th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq, the beginning of the Iraq War, I think it's important that we look at what are the lessons learned from that war. So as we look at this, we see the very clear need for a clear and winning strategy. This is not something that can only be done militarily. Right alongside the military strategy, which must consist of working with our partners in the region, it must consist with working with the Sunnis and the Kurds and really going to the heart of this sectarian conflict. Right alongside that military strategy must be a political one. Again, that goes to this sectarian divide that really allowed in Iraq ISIS to grow and really increase in its strength and presence there. When we looked at the continuation of the failed Bush policy now in this administration of propping up this Shia-led government in Baghdad that's heavily influenced by Iran, this is what has caused essentially for ISIS to grow.
Do you see these Shia militia as being more dangerous than, say, ISIS? Because I think General Petraeus said something to that effect recently.
I think whether it's more or less dangerous, I think you have to look at the core set of problems here. That the Shia militia being there, continuing to oppress and persecute the Sunnis is what's causing ISIS to grow in strength. And that's a fact. And we look at what's happening in Tikrit right now with that offensive attack there. We look at what we expect will happen in Mosul. To my knowledge, and I've asked questions of military leaders here and members of the administration, there is no clear plan in place for the Sunni people to take charge of these Sunni-dominated parts of Iraq, which is the only thing that will prevent ISIS from coming back in, even if there is a military victory.
How important is it that Congress pass some kind of authorization that the president wants to authorize the war against ISIS and the terrorists?
Well, this authorization goes to the military question, and I think before we examine that, again, we've got to look at what is the overall strategy to defeat this threat before we drill down in the details of that. Because without a winning strategy, whether it's this president or the next president, we're not getting to the heart of the problem here. I think another issue with the authorization that the president has put forward, the administration has been very clear that they will continue the military actions that they are conducting with or without this authorization to use military force, going back to that 2001 AUMF, and that this only needs to be passed as a message or a symbol to the American people. So I think that's where you're seeing a lack of urgency. But again, even as we look at that on its face, we've got to go to the deeper question of what's the strategy here? What are we going to do militarily, politically, and ideologically to defeat this enemy?
All right. Congresswoman, thank you so much.
Thank you,
we
Bob.
hope you'll come back to see us.
Absolutely.